Venusians. Today we are doing the mid-year reading tag. Somehow I have read the most books that I've ever read in a year by June, and yet I feel like I'm so behind. I have read 45 books so far this year, and that is more than I read for the entire year of 2025. 91% of those books were fiction books and 9% were nonfiction. I don't know the breakdown from last year, but I know I had to have been reading more nonfiction this year. Last year I read 3 nonfiction books total, and they were all celebrity memoirs. So far this year I've read 4 nonfiction books, 2 were celebrity memoirs, 1 was educational regarding health. It was Everything's Tuberculosis by John Green, and the 4th was The Age of Magical Overthinking, Notes on Modern Irrationality by Amanda Montell. First question is, what is your favorite book of the year so far? And I have this video where I do brackets, like a kind of knockout thing, to determine what is my favorite book of the year. So I feel like we can't say until we do that, but I will tell you what are my 5-star reads so far this year. Descriptions that I'm going to be giving of books in this video are coming completely off the dome, so take that as you will. My 5-star reads of 2026 so far. Beach Read is a contemporary romance book which follows our main character, January. She is dealing with like family stuff. I don't remember how much is a spoiler, so I'm just gonna say very dramatic grief, within her family. She decides to go to her family's old vacation house, which has been unused, so she's like packing everything up and getting it ready to sell, but she's also spending one last summer in that small little town. She is an author, and while she's there she runs into another author who she actually kind of has history with in some way, and they kind of reconnect, and from there a love story blossoms. Junie takes place, and I want to say the 1860s, and it follows this young, like preteen aged or maybe teenage girl named Junie who is enslaved. She is known as a wild child, a free spirit. She marches to the beat of her own drum, which is obviously very beautiful things to see in a child, but it's something that is really hard for her and her family because of the circumstances that they're in. You don't have that freedom to be independent and be a free thinker without literally putting yourself and your family in harm's way. Junie starts seeing the ghost of her sister who passed recently and is giving her tasks to do to uncover a big truth. There's also a love story within this book, but I wouldn't call it a romance. A Good Person follows our main character, Lillian, who is in this kind of situationship with a guy that I believe is named Henry. Lillian learns that Henry has betrayed her in an unthinkable way, and they break up. She is distraught. She literally goes out of her way to learn online how to put a hex on her ex-boyfriend, or ex-situationship, because he wasn't even really ever her boyfriend. So she puts this hex on him, only halfway believing it, and the next day he turns up dead. So the story, in typical weird girl fashion, follows Lillian's descent into madness as she's trying to figure out what happened, and also as she's trying to evade the police because she's not sure what her involvement was in that night. Honey follows Yursa, who is a PhD student at Cambridge. She studies sociology and is specifically studying Afro-pessimism. I recently did a video on this, but to condense it into one sentence, the theory of Afro-pessimism is basically that racism against Black people literally cannot end. The entire world that we exist in depends upon it, and an apocalypse would have to happen for that to be reversed. Talk about a downer. Yursa is frustrated by this. She's frustrated by men in her life, and she decides to do something about it. She decides to murder men in her life, using her thesis paper as justification. Another 2026 weird girl banger. Vicky is obsessed with anything that has to do with death and dying. So much so that she lives in an apartment that's over a funeral home, and she works at a startup that makes trendy urns. Most of the love in her life is reserved for her best friend Jen, but that changes when she gets on a dating app and becomes involved in a throuple. Suddenly her world and her capacity for love has expanded, but unfortunately, the kind of girl that Vicky is, she just can't let herself have a good thing. Comparing back to 2025, I only had 4 5-star reads for the entire year, so once again, best reading year ever. Yet I'm feeling like it's not adding up. Most read genre so far this year, and this is gonna sound crazy, is middle grade fantasy. Now, if you've watched any of my videos, you're like, what are you talking about? You never talk about middle grade fantasy. Well, sometime around fall, I believe October of 2025, I decided to embark on the journey of reading and or listening to every single book in the extended Percy Jackson universe. That's like 30 stories. Mostly books, but there are also some short stories and companion novellas. I started that in October, and I just finished sometime this spring. This year, I read 19 Percy Jackson books. If we're gonna ignore the Percy Jackson of it all, my real most read genre was contemporary and literary fiction. I know that you guys like to tussle when it comes to turning your brain off during reading, but I'm gonna be honest with you. Me and my journey of reading all the Percy Jackson books or listening to the audiobooks was very much so putting on a TV show in the background, like while you're doing your nails or something. So I decided not to rate them. I think I started rating them in October, but then eventually I was like, this is just like a little bit of fun. Like, this is not the same. I'm not reading this with the same intention that I read Honey by Imani Thompson. And honestly, if you have a problem with that, like, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you. Omitting Percy Jackson, I only read one book that would be considered a sequel, and that was in the Villains series by V.E. Schwab. So the first book was Vicious, the second book was Vengeful, and although I did like Vicious more than I liked Vengeful, I still thought that Vengeful was like a great sequel to the first book. Now the third book comes out in the fall, and I am so excited for it. To me, authors that I'm very excited to read from in the future are Eric LaRocca, Jade Song, Imani Thompson, and Oyenkan Braithwaite. I honestly could go on and on, but so far this year, of authors that I read one of their books for the first time, these are like the top 4 that I have on my radar to keep reading what they put out. There are so many 2026 releases that I want to get to. I even did a video that was 26 Black books that are coming out in 2026. I've already read some of the things on that list, and I have not been disappointed so far. Just to throw out a few new releases that I'm excited for are Rabbit Fox Tar by P.C. Veroni, The Heirs by Farida Abike Amide, which I just got this on hold from my library, so I'm so excited to grab that. Nothing Tastes as Good by Luc Dumas, and literally all of the Tradwife books that came out this year. Tradwife by Saratoga Schaefer, Yesteryear by, you know what I'm talking about. There's another Tradwife book, just everything about that. There's also one called Ravenous by Sarah Cooper. Oh wait, that hasn't come out yet. Okay. Upcoming releases that I'm excited for: Soft Spots by Layla Renee, Maisie Wood by Tannereve Dew, Kitten by Stacey Yu, Desperate Bodies by Lydia Mathis, Buzzard by Inez Ray, The Intrigue by Sylvia Grace Marino. So many books. There were a few books that I would say were a huge surprise to me. One of those being A Good Person by Kirsten King. This was a debut book that I got an advanced reader copy of, and yes, the description seemed like totally up my alley, so that wasn't surprising. But I was just completely in awe how this debut author like just fully nailed everything that it means in the weird girl lit genre. For a completely different reason, I was also very surprised by Emma Zimmerman's Here Lie All the Boys Who Broke My Heart. This book was just pretty outside of my normal taste, so I wasn't expecting to like it as much as I did, but I really enjoyed it. Here Lie All the Boys Who Broke My Heart follows our main character, who, I'm gonna be honest, I do not remember her name at this point in time. Our main character has a funny little tradition that she started in high school. Whenever she would break up with someone, she would write their eulogy. This was all good and dandy until the guys that she dated in the past literally start showing up dead. And this obviously makes her the prime suspect. Just based off the plot of the book, you would think that this would be 100% my thing, but I think that the way that it was written is definitely not 100% my wheelhouse. I really did enjoy it, which is why it's in my biggest surprise section. But I did compare it to like binging an entire season of Pretty Little Liars. It definitely has that kind of energy. In a similar vein, I was very surprised with how much I liked the Villains series by V.E. Schwab, book 1 and 2. Of course, book 3 doesn't come out until the fall, like I mentioned before. Surprising to me because me and V.E. Schwab do not always get along. So I'm really excited that I decided to give her writing another chance because this series did land for me. The Villains series imagines what would actually happen if regular people got superhero powers. One thing you quickly learn is that in the real world, when given great power, most people don't start jumping off of buildings to save babies and kittens. We start with these two friends, Victor and Eli, and they have a very unlikely friendship, namely because Victor is very like insular, loner, keeps to himself kind of vibes. And then Eli is popular, but also very, very Christian, and Victor is not. So the pair of them is just weird. They go to this exclusive college for like kid geniuses, basically. And one of them starts working on a project to see if scientifically, if anything could be done to like manipulate someone's genome to kind of kickstart extraordinary abilities within, you know, your random standard person. And boy, do they figure it out. From there, these college friends embark on a decade-long feud. I'm talking like a cat and mouse game in the best way. I'm not gonna lie, there were romantic tensions in this book that I was picking up on that apparently were not there. So that was kind of an L for me. But I was a big fan, and this is typically outside of my wheelhouse of what I'm usually reading, so it's always nice to get out of like my sphere and try something new. My favorite character so far this year was the title character from Junie by Aaron Crosby Eckstein, which brings me right into the next question, books that made me cry. I cried a lot reading Junie. I also cried so much reading I Love You Don't Die by Jade Song, and then I did a reread of The Perks of Being a Wallflower. Now, I like set myself up because I was already just feeling down and under the weather, and I was like, what would make me feel better other than a book that I've already read before and I know makes me miserable? So I read The Perks of Being a Wallflower, and it did exactly what I knew it would do. Honestly, I cried at that more than I ever have cried at it before. I want to say like every single chapter, crying. Books that made me happy. What is happy?
What can you say